student. I'm Amit from Demon Sports. So what we're doing is we're just giving a small brief about grassroots football in India as of now and what we can look forward to. And it's basically on the backdrop of India bidding for the Under 17 World Cup. I think some of you might have heard about that. India is planning to bid for the Under 17 World Cup. So we're not going to talk about, say, are we ready infrastructure-wise, is there going to be another scam or not, but we're just generally going to talk about are we ready in terms of putting up a team, because when you get into the Under 17 World Cup, you get a direct qualification to play in the World Cup, which is generally not possible for India. So do we have a realistic chance of competing? What position are we in to compete with the other teams? So that's what we want to talk today. Just a brief introduction about who we are. As Naveen introduced, we are Demon Sports. So we do sports events management, we do run some sports events for our clients, and we do consulting, and then we run our training programs and academies, which is basically the roots football school. So we train about 200 kids in Bangalore in a couple of centers in football. So it's mostly kids in the age group of 5 to 18 years. So we have like age group teams under 10, under 12, till under 17. So, and we are also into a bit of player representation, football player. I myself am a football player agent, and we also do some sports sponsorship work and consultancy related to sports as such. So the training part is only football restricted, but otherwise we are generally catered to all sports. So generally, as I was talking about, why we wanted to do this is because even FIFA recognizes India and they wanted to say the next, they call us a sleeping giant in football. So to probably, they've been investing in India, they don't call it investing, but they've been putting in money into India for a long time to take us to that next level, to somehow awaken the sleeping giant. So this Under 17 World Cup is a step in that direction. So the FIFA president and the secretaries have been visiting India regularly, and so this is a next step in that. So we're just trying to understand what the current structure of football, grassroots football in India is. So I'm not sure if all of you are too keyed into football as such, but and this is generally what happens in all sports as well. So the structure and what happens in grassroots level coaching or the level of game, it's applicable to other sports as well. So if you look at the general formal grassroots development programs that happen in India, it started off with the Vision India program, which is again part of the Vision Asia program. So initially it started as a state level project. It started off in Delhi and Manipur, and then it spread to a couple of other places in Goa, West Bengal, Kerala, and a couple of other places. But over a period of time, because it was a state level program and the input from state level were not really up to the mark, most of these programs got stalled, and now they're slowly planning to move into a city level program. So Vision India program was one of the most talked about program when it was launched. So now it's currently suspended. In states in particular, Goa had started, after the Vision India program, they started off a program with the Australian Association, and it was called the Goa Australia ASOR program. So where the Australian Association was giving quite a lot of technical support to the Goa Association to build grassroots level programs. So they had a lot of centers where they had voluntary coaches coming in, teaching kids about football. So because football is popular in Goa, they had a lot of local centers where people used to come and train. But again, the general problem was that there was no structured program, and the coaches never had too much of a formal training. So that also got stalled. So FIFA again, from its largest, it's given money to India to build stadiums. So a lot of artificial stadiums have come in India. So that's the gold project in India. So they've now given money about $8 million for building about 8 artificial turfs in India. So it's already, one is already here in Karnataka. If you be familiar with football in Karnataka, the main football association has an artificial turf. So part of this gold project is to build infrastructure in India. So most of it is through these artificial turfs. So they're supposed to come up in about 8 cities, artificial turf, which are world-class facilities on the pitch. So most of this gold project money is going towards spending on youth development, and some part of it is also going towards women's football and organization and administration and things like that. So that's what the general formal level grassroots development that's happening in India. So other than that, there are very few places where, say, state level initiatives are there. So somewhere in the northeast there are programs. Even in Karnataka there is a ministry funded program like the DYSS. Similar ones are there in Sikkim as well and other states also. So there are state level initiatives as well into developing football. And plus there are a lot of other private organizations like ours. There are NGOs also which work towards developing football. So there are a lot of say disjointed academies across the country which are doing something to develop grassroots football. So generally if you look at it, this is kind of like the general structure of grassroots and youth football that is there. So if you watch the base at the bottom, so that's where the most focus that needs to come in. Whereas, so for any game, what is important is you have more people playing the game. So the purpose is to build and get more kids to play football or any other sport. So and then it kind of comes up, the triangle goes up where you have more specific national teams, state teams, district teams, in age group teams, say under 14, under 16, under 17, and it goes on to the national level. So India currently has like an under 23 team, under 19 teams, under 16 team, which recently went and played the AFC Champions League, which is quite a big achievement. The team, after the last 6 years, they've been into the last rounds of the AFC Champions League under 16 tournament, which our national team hasn't been able to do. So that is a result of some amount of sustained development activity that has been going on. So generally, when you see that generally the foundation stage, when you get kids into football, so you can start like even as young as 5-year-olds, you get them, and generally it's more about getting them interested in the game, and it's more of fun activities and bringing up the skill around that whole fun and developing skills. It's more as they get into, say, a more 12-year-old or 14-year-old, that generally more specific training is given to bring them up into the national team, the state teams. So that's how the general structure goes up. So overall, across the world, you see that generally most teams end up playing about 50, 60, even grassroots teams play about 50, 60 matches in a year. Whereas in India, and people and most teams sometimes even struggle to get about 5 matches a year. So, because there are very few teams that actually exist, and playing among themselves is a big concern. So recently, as part of the FIFA project, we formed these, we are forming under 14 elite academies in India. So they currently started one in Mumbai, and it's also coming up in 3 other places. So where it is going to be, the focus is going to be on under 14, 13-year-olds and 14-year-olds. So who are going to be trained in so they are regional elite academies. So the kids from the lower level, they select, there's a scouting process for that, and they are selected into these regional academies, and from there the plan is then build an under 16 elite academy somewhere in India, and then the progression happens to the senior teams. So that's something that's just getting started, the elite academy program. So other than that, the other major partner in getting coaching to kids or developing grassroots is the coaching program. So building quality coaches, people who can train kids scientifically and with the latest methodologies. And a lot of the coaches that we see in India are still following the age-old methods, which probably worked in the 60s and 70s, but they don't match up to the standards that are happening now. So AFC, which is a parent Asian body for football, so they've started programs for coaching licenses in India. So they have like C license, B license, A license. So there are more licensed coaches in India now, but the problem is because the way earlier footballers were and how things are taught here in India, and the effect of these coaching licenses are not actually coming up to the mark because people actually don't know how to implement it. It's ends up being getting a license, showing off the license, saying that I did a 2-week course and I got the license, and then how you actually put it into practice is still missing. And again, a lot of these coaches who actually get the licenses don't actually coach kids, so they end up working in a railways, and it's just the association sends them for the license, so they get it done and then they come back. That's about it. So we don't have a grassroots specific coaching program as well. Actually, these AFC license programs are more towards club level coaching. So the C, B and A are actually for club level coaching. We don't have something specifically for grassroots level coaching where every one of us, if we are interested in coaching football, and there's no way where you can actually go and learn something to be a professional, not a professional football coach, but at least a proper grassroots football coach where if you just want to train 50 kids in your locality, you can do that. And there's no method how you can, there's no standardized method as how you're doing that as of now. So, but what the Football Association in India has done presently is, because we don't have too many local coaches, they've gotten more of foreign expertise. So currently our national coach is a Dutch person, technical director is again Dutch. We've got coaches in the under-19, under-23 stage also who are foreigners. Australians, Englishmen are the people who are at the helm of Indian affairs right now in terms of youth development coaching for the national teams. But again, that's at one stage. At the lower levels, it's still the regular PE teachers itself who end up coaching football or taking the school team to play football matches mostly. There hardly any training that actually happens, and kids just know how to play football and they kick the ball around, and that's about it. So moving forward, what can be done to get India to that competitive stage and getting into the under-17 World Cup? One would be getting structured programs in place, having a curriculum at the national level. Mr. Rob Bang, who is the technical director of Indian football, has recently come up with a plan called Lakshya 2022. That's a plan, it's a roadmap to get India to the under-22 World Cup. Not the junior level, the senior World Cup, which, anyway, let's not talk about that here because they just 4 slots from Asia where generally you already have South Korea, Japan, Australia and any of say Iran or any of the other teams. You've got to first come into the top 4 in Asia to get into the World Cup. So that's a little difficult. So the next thing is getting more coaches trained for grassroots program. Like I already said, having people interested. There are a lot of people interested in coaching football, but they don't know how to do that. So how do you get you and me, who's probably interested, and making say more regional specific coaching programs that can be built. Not just restricted it to say the association sending 10 people that they select for coaching and that's the end of it. So again, with the kind of red tapeism and all that happens in our state level programs, there's very little that actually permeates down to the lower levels. The other important thing is having more tournaments and getting kids to play more games. So there's no concept of a league, and we're still struggling to get our national leagues in place. So kids league and stuff like that is still way off the target. So if you want to target reaching the under-17 and have kids play like at least 40 matches a year, or having a league that can do that, or having other teams which can support the ecosystem, so you have to get coached and then you have to play also to test it out. So that's the other important part that needs to be more thought of. Again, within the age group, which across all sports in India, and if you have an under-13 tournament, you can be sure that half the people that are coming there are not going to be under 30. There's actually this incident that one cricket umpire narrated to me where kids, it was a match between a Karnataka team and a team from the north. So the young bowler from Karnataka, he's about 12 years or so, so he's a spinner. So he goes up to the batsman on the other end, the guy from North India, and he goes up and asks him, "Uncle, आज आपके बच्चे को लेके नहीं आया मैच खेलने के लिए." So, which kind of sums up what happens in age group tournaments in India. You don't get to, so if you get trained and you are in the correct age group and you want to play with other kids of the same age group, you don't get to do that. Most people, you can easily pay about $300 and get a age certificate from the municipality. The other thing is getting more local focus, and most of the programs that are happening right now are in the national level. So we have a national level under 23 team, under 19 team, but that's not coming down to the lower level. We need more focus on the regional level and more like city-based regional centers which can train kids. And if you consider the example of Germany, which is a superpower in football, they have about 121 training centers across the country, regional training centers across the country, and it's mandatory that every club that plays in the top two leagues, the Bundesliga 1 and 2, has to have a youth development team. They have to have age group teams. Whereas in India, if you see, most of the clubs hardly manage to get their own finances in place, that getting the age group teams itself is a big challenge. Most people just end up making a team for a particular under-19 tournament and just playing. So the focus has got to be more on local. Right now we have a lot of dots here and there, but what we need to do is joining all these dots and bring it into one structure, which is again the most important thing that needs to be done. Yeah, so I think that's about it. So I think 2 minutes, in case anybody got any questions.